The night was colder than it should have been, the kind of cold that creeps into your bones and refuses to leave, and at the far end of a nearly empty bus stop, a small fragile figure sat completely still as if the world had forgotten her. Daniel Carter noticed her only because something felt wrong, deeply wrong, the way a parent senses danger even before seeing it. The girl was thin, poorly dressed, her head lowered, her hands clutching a torn cloth bag like it was the only thing anchoring her to life, and when a passing bus splashed muddy water near her feet, she didn't flinch or move away. That was the moment Daniel realized she couldn't see it coming, and that realization struck him harder than any tragedy he had faced before. Before the story goes any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of helping someone when no one else will, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to this channel for more real and emotional stories, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from because your presence here matters more than you know. Daniel Carter was a single father in his late 30s, carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders in ways no one could see. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him alone to raise their 8-year-old son, Noah. Life had not been kind to Daniel since then. He worked long shifts as a warehouse supervisor, barely making enough to pay rent, school fees, and groceries. Sleep was a luxury, and happiness felt like a distant memory. Every day was about survival, about pushing through exhaustion because someone small depended on him. That night, he was returning home after an overtime shift, his mind heavy with worries about unpaid bills and nose-growing sadness since losing his mother. He almost walked past the bus stop, almost convinced himself that someone else would help, but something inside him refused to let his feet move on. The girl looked no older than 16. Her eyes were open but unfocused, staring into nothing, reflecting the dull yellow streetlight without truly seeing it. Her clothes were worn and too thin for the cold, her shoes cracked at the sides, and her hair was tangled as if she hadn't had time or help to care for it in days. Daniel stood a few steps away, unsure, conflicted, afraid of getting involved in something he could not handle. But then he noticed her trembling, not dramatically, not loudly, but in small silent shakes that broke his heart. He understood that kind of quiet suffering all too well. It was the same kind he saw in the mirror every morning. He learned her name was Lily Harper, and she had been blind since childhood. Her parents, crushed by poverty and circumstances they could no longer endure, had taken her on a long bus ride with promises of a better place, of help, of hope. They left her at that bus stop with a small bag, a few coins, and a lie that they would return soon. Hours had passed, then the night came, and still she waited because trusting was the only thing she knew how to do. Daniel realized this wasn't just abandonment, it was desperation disguised as hope, and the truth made his chest tighten painfully. Bringing Lily home was not an easy decision. Daniel argued with himself the entire walk, fear clashing with compassion. He barely had enough for his own child, barely enough space in their small apartment, barely enough emotional strength left to give. Yet when he imagined leaving her there, blind and alone, he felt something inside him break completely. That night, Daniel's apartment felt different. The walls that had echoed with grief now held a fragile new presence. Noah was confused at first, curious, and then quietly gentle in a way that surprised his father. The boy who had been so withdrawn since his mother's death suddenly had someone else to care about, someone who needed patience and kindness as much as he once had. The days that followed were heavy and uncertain. Lily was polite, grateful to a fault, apologizing for everything, even for taking up space. Daniel struggled to figure out what to do next. Social services were slow, overburdened, and impersonal. Some nights he lay awake, wondering if he had made a terrible mistake, if his kindness would cost his son stability. Money grew tighter, exhaustion deeper, and fear louder. But something else was growing too, something quiet and powerful. Lily helped Noah with his homework by listening and encouraging him. Noah read stories to her at night, his voice growing stronger, more confident. Laughter, something Daniel hadn't heard in his home for years, began to return in small, unexpected moments. One evening, while sorting through old documents Lily kept in her bag, Daniel discovered the truth that left him completely stunned. Among the worn papers was a medical report and a faded letter addressed to a name he hadn't heard in years, his own late wife's name. Lily was the child of a woman his wife had once tried to help through a charity program years ago, a woman who had written letters begging for assistance when her daughter's condition worsened. Daniel remembered those letters now, remembered how his wife had cried over them, how she had tried to raise funds but fell ill before she could do more. Lily wasn't just a stranger abandoned by fate, she was connected to the love Daniel had lost, to a promise that had been broken by circumstances beyond anyone's control. That realization changed everything. What had begun as an act of kindness became a mission of the heart. Daniel fought harder, reached out to organizations, shared Lily's story, and refused to let bureaucracy bury her future. Slowly, help began to arrive. Donations, medical support, and eventually, access to a school for the visually impaired. Lily's world expanded beyond the darkness she had known, filled with learning, music, and confidence she never thought possible. Daniel watched her transform, not just into a survivor, but into a beacon of resilience. As months passed, Daniel noticed changes in himself too. His grief softened. The emptiness his wife's absence had carved into his life slowly filled with purpose. He realized that saving Lily had also saved him and his son in ways he never expected. They became a family not by blood, but by choice, sacrifice, and love. The bus stop where Lily had once waited became a distant memory, replaced by a home filled with warmth, struggle, and hope. If this story has touched even a small part of your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach those who need them most. And before this story ends, we sincerely ask you to comment below and tell us what this story made you feel, because your words give life to stories like these and remind us why kindness still matters. In the end, Daniel often thought about how close he came to walking past that bus stop, to choosing comfort over compassion. He realized that life doesn't always announce the moments that change us forever. Sometimes they sit quietly in the cold, waiting to be seen. And when we choose to stop, to care, to help even when we are broken ourselves, we don't just change someone else's life. We find our own way back to the light.